What's up, students?
What's up?
Where are we at, Josh? Tell me where we're at.
We are in John. Oh,
I mean, like, where are we physically at, man?
we are in Justin's new designed office.
Let's go. 3512 Faith Church Road. That's the address.
Wow.
I mean, it's on the website. Like, I'm not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go, come by and see me. I got some memorabilia up here, man. You have a favorite
Perry?
Harry? Huh? That is. Shout out
Wow.
to Perry Hardy.
Oh,
giving me a card.
that.
Shout out to Perry.
That's pretty cool.
This is one of my favorite things. Someone gave me a Jordan 1. They painted the point logo on it.
Nice.
How sick is
That's
that?
sick.
I've tried to wear them before, but look how big they are. They're massive. That's a good thing. Shout out to the Panthers. And the Panthers were actually good.
Yeah.
We got Dan Morgan, Jake Delhomme, Julius Peppers, Nick Goins right there, stud. Mike Rucker, Chris Jenkins.
Wow.
It had some dogs, man.
That's-
They don't know about those Panther days when
No.
we actually had like legitimate,
Real players.
yeah, real players. So yeah, come by. Steve Smith got a signed ball up there.
Well, that's my favorite player.
Really?
Steve Smith.
Oh, let's go. I
Yeah.
love it. Because yeah, we are in my office
Yeah.
doing this, but where are we at in the Bible right now?
Now we're in John 9.
Josh is super spiritual, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, what we're going to talk about today, a little bit, and hopefully less than 35 minutes or so, is we were just kind of saying, man, one of my favorite things to do with you and with other people is like when you get in the car and you got like a 25-minute ride or whatever. It's like just not the, we talk about sports and stuff
Yeah.
too.
We're not that spiritual.
Yeah, we're not that spiritual all the time.
No.
But it is fun to just like have conversation and just talk about the Bible. And so that's hopefully what today is. We didn't really rehearse this.
Nothing planned.
Yeah, nothing planned. But we didn't really rehearse it, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. In particular, we're talking about Jesus and the Sabbath day. Because last night, we were recording this the day after we were in John 9, 8 through 41. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And yeah, they're right there. And it says right there in verse 14 that it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened the blind man's eyes, right? But what's interesting is last night we talked about it and hit on it a little bit is in John 9, this Sabbath day is not really like the point of discussion, right? It's not the main point of what's happening in the chapter. So let me ask you this, Josh. Earlier we said we're going to get to John 5. That's what we're going to go to in a second. Why do you think though the Bible, why emphasize the Sabbath in chapter 5? But here it's like, it wants you to know it's a big deal because it happened, but it's not like spending all this time on it and doing it. Why do you think the Bible does that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not like the main part of this text is not for that versus like John 5, which we'll get to. That was a lot more focused on that where, I guess we'll get to that later. But,
yeah,
I'm drawing a blank.
No, I think it is kind of like, I think it is that simple, is that I think sometimes when you come to different passages, it's like, different passages are there to emphasize different things, right? And it's almost like if you're a writer, right, are you going to re-say something you've already said? It's like, maybe not. Sometimes you can do that, you know what I'm saying? But I think in this case, it's like we've already had this massive incident in John 5 that happens on the Sabbath, creates this crazy long discussion with Jesus, as we're going to see in just a second. And so John 9, it's almost like as the reader, we already should know that the Sabbath day ticks him off. You know what I mean? We already should know that. And so because we've already learned that in John 5 and John 9, that's not the biggest deal. The biggest deal is that he'll be born blind, all the same.
Yeah, we know it takes him off again.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's read that. Go back and read John 5. So just to set it up, I'm gonna have you read right in verse 16 and just read 16 through 18. But what happens before that is Jesus walks in. We don't know it was the Sabbath day. He walks into this pool that's there at Bethesda, and it's this kind of they have this kind of mythology or this belief, every now and then this angel would stir up this water, and if you were sick and you could fall in it, you'd be healed, which is kind of a crazy thing. But Jesus walks up to a dude who's been lame for 38 years, right? And he heals him, right? So you read that, it's an amazing thing. And then in verse 9, it says that once the man was healed, took up his bed and walked, and it's then we learned the piece of information. Now that day was the Sabbath. So read 16 through 18, just so you kind of have an idea of why it makes him mad.
And this is why the Jews were persecuting Jesus, because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. But Jesus answered them, "My Father is working until now, and I am working."
Yeah, and verse 18 says, this is why the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him. So have you ever wondered why the Jews wanted to kill Jesus? John 5:18 verse. They were seeking to kill him because he was not only breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. So maybe you said you did a lot of work for this, which is
Yeah.
great. What even is the Sabbath? Let's start there. What even is
So
that?
it started all the way back in Genesis 2, where God rested on the seventh day, right? And so then he commanded the children of Israel to take a rest day, and commanded them, and like took it to the max.
Yeah.
Where like you were not allowed to pick up a stick, or you got stoned.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Which is wild.
Yeah. Did you write down the reference for that? If you didn't, it's okay. But
I don't have
yeah, go to just like Google Deuteronomy, Google Exodus, and be like verses about the Sabbath, and
there's so many.
It's pretty intense, right? So let's just like start like I like to do this a lot, and I think this is a good Bible reading tip. Is right before you like dive in and try to do like every detail. It's like just step out and like big picture. Why do you think God tells His people to have a Sabbath day? Like, why do you think God tells His people to have a day of rest? Why does He do that? Why do you do that?
I think we just get so focused on everything around us and our work and just labor that we forget to just take time.
Yeah.
Honor God,
Yeah.
worship Him, spend with our families, and just let our mind come back to the Word and get in His presence. Really.
Yeah. I think it's like a beautiful gift, man, and it's a gift. It's a reminder. It's all of these things. I think for like I know like obviously mostly probably high schoolers are watching this, but I think like when you just rest and you take it truly a day when it's like okay, I'm not gonna work. I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna be with my family. I love how you said that because there's an emphasis on that for sure. It's like I'm gonna be with my family. I'm gonna do this. What's awesome, and I think this is the coolest part about the Sabbath rest, right? Is the world keeps spinning, man. And like it's kind of a good reminder. I'm saying this like to us, and hopefully someone hears this. Is like we are not as important as we think we are. You know what I mean? It's like I think sometimes we get in our head like, oh man, if I don't do this, then I'm gonna get behind here, and if I don't do it, and certainly there is a time for work. Like there's working hard is a good thing. It's a biblical thing, absolutely. But there is something beautiful about resting that it just reminds you that He is God and like I am not. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. So here's what we know about the New Testament, though, in the context of the New Testament, is you have these religious groups, particularly the biggest ones we see in the Gospels are the Pharisees and the Sadducees, right? And these Pharisees had added law upon law upon law to the original law of the Old Testament, right? And you kind of getting ready for this. I mean, can we show them the notes that you have here? I mean, my guy's ready, man. Like I love it. I don't want to waste those. Did you come across like why do you think they added law upon law upon law? What do you think?
Yeah.
So the Pharisees get a bad rap, but their origins I think were genuine. So
they were trying everything they possibly could to keep the Sabbath and make sure that nobody did break the law. So they were just going above and beyond to keep it.
Yeah.
And it just became too much.
Yeah.
Really.
Were you there the night that I did the infamous fence graphic?
I didn't, but I heard about that this morning.
Did you really?
I did.
Yeah. Did Schmidt tell you about it this morning?
Shout out.
Yeah,
Schmidt.
shout out Schmidt. That's amazing that you remember it. So it was so cheesy, but you know what? I think it was good. It was God's sovereignty that allowed it to be so cheesy because people actually do remember it. But I think it's a great, and I'm not the first to come up with this illustration. People have been saying this for a long time. But I think the idea of offense is a really good way to talk about like what the Pharisees did, right? Because you had the law. So if you can imagine like I don't know, the law being like a fence around a house, right? And the rule is like, okay, don't cross that fence. Don't break the law. Well, kind of what the Pharisees did was they said, okay, if we're not allowed to cross this fence, then we're going to put a fence outside of that fence. So if we don't cross that fence, then we're certainly not going to cross the real one. And what's crazy is they added fence upon fence upon fence upon fence upon fence. I'll have to see if I still have the graphic and put it on the because it was pretty funny. And so what's crazy is like particularly in the Sabbath, I looked this up earlier just to remind myself. There was this book called the Mishnah that developed. It was a Jewish book that basically recounted the law, recounted the Torah, and it added a ton to it, right? It was an additional, all these laws that the Pharisees would have kept. What's crazy is there were 39 categories of law, right? Wow. 39 categories of law just on the Sabbath day. Yeah. And so I remember back in John 5, we were walking through it, I'd said this statement, it's wild. The Sabbath day was supposed to be this day of rest, right? And they had made it work to not work on the Sabbath. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it was this crazy thing. Which then, in that context, Jesus shows up to these people who've been abusing and misusing the law and all that stuff. And so he heals the guy on the Sabbath, right? And so why does that tick them off? What do they classify that?
Yeah,
as?
I mean,
Yeah.
they classify that as work.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And so, yeah, he's completely going against everything that they teach. And, it takes him off because that's, like you said earlier, like, if he's working on the Sabbath, he says, my Father's working, so I'm working.
Yeah.
He's claiming to be God.
Yeah, that's kind of his, like, they're asking him, like, how dare you do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus is, I guess, his justification for working on the Sabbath and healing on the Sabbath. The justification for that is, my Father's doing it, so that I can do it. Which is loaded, and we hear that, and remember, oh, okay, cool. It's like, no, like, in that moment, you just said it, like, he is claiming to be able to do something that only God is doing, right? And so I remember I talked about this that night in John 5, and I don't know if y'all care about this, but I've been like on this deep dive of like listening to all these debates and stuff, and it's been fun. And there's like a scholarly debate that's out there of like, did Jesus actually claim to be God, or just people saying this about him? And this is one of those moments where it's like, okay, does the words "I am God" leave Jesus' mouth in John chapter 5? Not necessarily, right? But the very fact that he's saying, listen, my Father's working, so I'm working, and I'm doing this on the Sabbath. Like, they would have understood that, without a doubt, right? They would have understood that as like, okay, this man is claiming to be divine. Mm-hmm. He's claiming to be God, which is wild, right? Which is crazy. So this is one of the main reasons they go to kill him, because he's claiming to be God. A passage I thought about, I didn't write this one down, but it's in John chapter 7. We already looked at that, and it just shows the craziness that these Pharisees had leaned into, because there was this argument that they would have, because you had the two things they held like so highly, or two of the things, was the Sabbath and circumcision, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you were circumcised, you had to be circumcised on a certain day, right? So it was this whole thing, like, if your circumcision day fell on the Sabbath day, you're in a pickle, right? Because you're like, which law am I going to break, right? Yeah. And so they made this adjustment, they made this amendment to say, okay, well, if it lands on that day, there's an excused absence. Like, there's an excused work. You can circumcise your son on the Sabbath day if that day landed on it. And I love what Jesus' argument is, because Jesus is basically saying to them, he's like, man, if I heal a guy on the Sabbath day, you get mad. Yeah. Now, you're literally, like, for the time, hurting someone on the Sabbath, but you excuse that, right? Mm-hmm. And he's showing just the backwardsness of their law. So what do you think then, in light of all this? Because this is the point. That's the main point I wanted to remind our students of, is recapping this. Is, and this is a huge deal, because it is showing that Jesus is claiming to be God. He's making himself equal with God, which is exactly what they say in verse 18 of chapter 5. What do we learn? What is Jesus trying to remind us of in terms of, what do you think he's trying to remind us and teach us of in terms of his relationship with the Sabbath? Does that make sense? And the authority he has over it? Or what do you think? We didn't really plan any of this. We're just talking. This is just car conversations, man. We're like driving on 45 right now. We're just talking.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all will like point to Jesus. Like Hebrews 4, I wrote down, Jesus is our Sabbath rest.
Yeah, like
right.
Which one would you write down in Hebrews 4? What verse?
I didn't write down the specific verse. But yeah, so like our eternal rest is in him. Like Matthew 11 also says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest."
Yeah.
Did you find it?
Yeah. So I think I am. Is it in verse 5? For he has some where he spoke on the seventh day in this way, and God rested on the seventh day from all his works. And again, the passage, they shall not enter my rest, since it remains. Maybe I have it. For Joshua had given them rest, so then there remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. Here we go. For whoever has entered God's rest has also rested from his works as God did from his. Right? I think that's kind of where we're at. So yeah, you're right. It's this idea, because then later on in chapter 4, the famous passage of Jesus and our high priest doing the work that we couldn't do. He's passed through the heavens, all these things. So yeah, when we enter into Jesus, we get to enter into this Sabbath rest, which is really cool idea.
Yeah. And then I think if we're not like careful, the legalism is what blinded the religious leaders, right? Yeah. And they were so focused on the rules and all the rules that they missed the miracle.
Yeah.
Of the man being healed. And I think if we're not careful, we can easily fall into that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I know I said this last night. I think the thing with the Pharisees, over and over, and we were talking about this the other day, but in John 8 and 9, it's that progression, right, of they're bound, but they think they're free. They're sons of the devil in John 8, but think they're sons of God, right? And then at the end, they're blind, but they think they can see, right? And part of that blindness and part of that they think they're free is they're like holding up all these rules that they're able to keep, right? But it's right. It's the irony of they're holding all these rules, but they're breaking the heart of the law, right? Which is crazy. I think a passage to read too, and we mentioned this, you said you wrote it down, is there's another passage in Mark chapter 2 when Jesus is talking about the Sabbath. And I'll just read it real quick. This is one Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields. As they made their way, his disciples began to pluck heads of grain. And the Pharisees were saying to him, look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath? So notice that, right? They're literally just walking through a field, and they're picking off stuff, and that counts as work. Which is crazy, right? I mean, it's nuts. Like, that's insane. And so they're picking off stuff. And Jesus said to them, have you never read what David did? When he was in need and he was hungry, he and those who were with him, how he entered the house of God in the time of Abiathar the high priest, and he ate the bread of presence, which is not lawful for any but the priest to eat, and he gave it to those who were with him. And so he's quoting a story from 1 Samuel 21, right, where David is on the run from Saul, and he does something that, quote unquote, is against the law, which is kind of wild, right? But he says to them, and I think this might be the two best verses in how Jesus views himself in the relationship to the Sabbath. And he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath, right? And Jesus is like, yo, like, I'm Lord of this day. Like, I'm over this day. And this day was made for us to rest, but Jesus still has authority and power over it, right? I think that was one of the coolest things. I love it when I'm like studying the Bible to teach it and I learn something new.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it. It's like, it's kind of this weird tension in Genesis of, did God rest? Yeah. The Bible said he rested. But in a very real sense, it's like, he also, like, and no one throws stones at me. You know, it's like, dude, if God stopped completely working,
we're in trouble.
We're in trouble,
We
right?
are in
Like
trouble.
Colossians 1:15 says he's holding all things together right now. So if God like took a nap and just rested and just took his hands off this world, off this solar system, off this universe for a second, like we're gone, which is crazy, right? So it's like he does rest and he models that for us, which is amazing. But in a very real sense, God is always working. He's always moving. He's always doing these things. And so Jesus is saying, yeah, like, I'm Lord of the Sabbath, right? My Father's working, so I'm working. And again, this is one of those things where it's, does Jesus actually say there the phrase, I am God? Technically, no, right? But man, let's don't make any mistake about it. Like, he is claiming to do something that only God can do, which is really, really cool, man, which is really, really cool. So yeah, it's wild that the Sabbath is like, that's what makes them the maddest in John 5:18. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy. Like, of all the things Jesus is doing, it's working on the Sabbath. That is what's ticking them off the most. Yeah. So I think it's just good to remind ourselves of that, because again, in John 9, it makes sure we know it's the Sabbath. Yeah. Which they would not have been happy about, but we already know that from John 5. So it doesn't emphasize it again. So I thought it'd be good just to kind of remind ourselves of why that is. You have a lot of notes. Is there anything we missed? Anything that you saw like, oh bro, I can't wait to say that?
No, one thing that stuck out to me is that the Sabbath is not a burden, but like we've said, it's a reminder to rest in Christ, worship him, and then not miss what he's doing. Yeah. I love that. So we should still do it. Do you think we should? Yeah. I mean, we should, intentionally take time to rest and worship him, and like we said, spend time with our families and all. But I don't think it's necessarily like you have to take this day out of the week and like all day. Yeah, that might be one of those cases where you're adding a law to it, right? Yeah. But I think too. I think the two things is, one, I love how we brought up Hebrews 4, Matthew 5. It's like, in a very real sense, Jesus is our Sabbath rest. Like, we can rest today, knowing that. Like, I think about me last night. This is always a reminder for me as a pastor. It's like, I'm not more righteous because I preached last night, right? It's like, I can rest and that my righteousness was accomplished in what Christ did for me. So there's a real rest in that. But also, I think there is like a 100% really practical, spiritual benefit to say, man, you know what? Like, one day, I'm gonna rest. Yeah. And I'm not gonna worry about it. Put your phone down. Yeah, I'm not that's a great one, right? Like, put your phone down. The world's gonna keep spinning. Yeah. I'm not gonna do homework today. I'm not gonna do, like, I'm literally just going to rest, and I'm gonna do it. And I think what's cool is, like, when you understand what Jesus does and who he is. Like, I know, like, some people, and no shame if this is you, maybe your parents, no shame.
like for them, it's like they don't cut the grass on their Sabbath day. And what's funny is like for me, man, like I remember it takes me like 25 minutes to cut my grass now because our yard's so small. But dude, I used to love to cut the grass on my day off because it's like just helped me like focus, like it just helped me kind of like stress relief or whatever. Like I just enjoyed it. Like that wasn't work for me. Like I legitimately enjoyed it. And so I think that's kind of the freedom that Sabbath brings, is that like, man, you can rest in a variety of ways. But yeah, it's stopping your normal routine. It's getting out of it. There is something too. I should have looked it up, and I think I shouldn't quote studies that I don't know, like for sure. You ever heard of that statistic? Like 73% of all studies are made up.
No.
I just made that up. Yes, I just made that up. So I just made up a number. But there is something, it was like a secular study one time, and it was basically showing the health benefits of taking a day off. And it's like, yeah, God's been saying that since the beginning of his people. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, there is something to it, right? And so, yeah, our encouragement to y'all would be, one, to keep reading the Bible, man. I think it's cool to just read John 9, but then also have John 5 in mind. It's just good to read it that way. So read the Bible. Rest in Jesus. Man, rest today in who he is and what he's done. And then the third is be super practical and say, all right, man, like tomorrow's Friday, or I guess y'all have to be at school Friday, but Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to rest, man. I'm going to do it. And
spend time in the Word.
Yeah, for sure. So, any final thoughts?
All good.